This is an example of break-even analysis. Many times we have examples where we need to understand how many more units or how many more patients do we need to see in order to break even. Recent example, I had an analysis that showed that we didn't have a contribution margin high enough to make an initiative worthwhile. And so I wanted to understand how many more patients do we need. And so I calculated that out. Here's an example that hopefully will help you understand break-even analysis. So our problem is John is an administrator of an outpatient x-ray department in the suburbs for a hospital. He loves his job. It's convenient for him to get to work, and it's easy so that he can help take care of his children. Over the last several years, volume seems to be going down, and John has received notice from his boss that they are losing money, and if things don't improve, they may have to close the site. He notes that the fixed costs for the site are $375,000, and that includes rent for the buildings and machinery. The site is anticipating doing 5,000 x-rays for the year. They charge $200 per x-ray. However, with insurance, contractual allowances, and so forth, they average $100 per x-ray. Costs for staff and other variable expenses are $35 per x-ray. John is having dinner and runs into the landlord, and in the course of their discussions, he mentions that the lease is up next year and that he heard a rumor that the site is losing money and might close. And the landlord thinks about the situation and agrees that she would reduce the rent by $50,000, and he's ecstatic to hear about this. So he sits down and he figures out how is he going to show this to his boss and show him that the site should stay open. He gets confused and asks us to help him out. Okay, so what I would suggest you do is in Excel, let's put the information down. So of importance are, what is the annual volume? So we know that that is 5,000 units, right? And how much do they make per x-ray? So the average collection per x-ray is $100. So you may hopefully remember from other discussions in classes, what we charge in healthcare isn't actually what we get paid. So if we have a contract with Blue Cross, they may pay us 75% of charges. So our actual collection rate is the cash in the door or the money that we actually will receive. Gross charges less collection, less adjustments or contractual adjustments equals our actual collection. Then we know that the fixed costs, right, are $375,000, and the variable costs are $35 per x-ray. Okay, so from this we can calculate what is the current situation. So the current situation is that we're doing 5,000 x-rays times $100, right? Right, so $500,000 is the revenue. And our expenses, right, we know are fixed, $375,000, and variable is going to be 5,000 times 35. So here, total expenses and I'm just going to wrap these so it's all on one line. Okay. Total expenses are not that because I didn't do this as a minus. Okay, so our total expenses are $550,000, and so our net income, or loss in this instance, plus 500,000 less our total expenses. So we have a loss of $50,000. So that's great. What do we do with that? So we want to then understand, based on our loss of $50,000, how many more x-rays do we need to do? So in order to do that, we need to figure out our contribution margin, right? So our contribution margin we can take our revenue per item, right, $100, less variable, and so our contribution margin per item is $65. So we know that we have a loss of $50,000, right? And our contribution margin is $65 per item. So if we simply take 50,000 divided by 65, it tells us that we need to do 769 more x-rays in order to break even. So let's prove that out now, okay? So if we do 769 times 100, right? 76,900, and we know it's $35 is our variable costs. Whoops, did that wrong. Minus that times that, right? And so that leaves us with 49,985. So there's a little bit of a rounding because this number here would actually be 769.23. Okay, so here we make $49,000 or $50,000, and that equals our loss. So this is what they would need to make at the current expenses. But now, if we were able to reduce the rent, and so here we have 5,000 units, and we make $100 per unit, right? So we have our revenue of $500,000. Here, we still have our variable costs are $35, right? And we have our fixed costs, which are going to be now reduced from $375,000 to $325,000, right? That's what we said they were going to reduce. Okay, so we took 375 minus 50. So here we have our total expenses are 500,000. And so here we break even, right? Revenue less expenses, net income or loss, there is none. So here again though, if you were running this company, would you want to continue running it for break even? You know, it may depend on your mission, it may depend on a bunch of things, but at least here you're break even. And here, if you're going to continue, John now knows that he has to increase volume by 769 units. Now, we typically wouldn't talk about it in that way. We would say we want to increase it an X percentage, right? So 769, what is that increase of units in terms of the percentage? So here, percentage, and we'll do a couple of, so 15.38%. So let's prove that. 5,000 times 15.38%, 769. So we'd have to increase volume, we would say, by 15% in order to break even. And that's all there is to break even analysis.